In the top stories, Healthwise panel addresses postpartum depression. Guyana's president repeat calls to end U.S. embargo on Cuba, and Egypt sentences top leaders of Muslim Brotherhood to death. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Wednesday, 6 March 2024. I'm Scotty C. Hendrickson. Nationally, the 4th March edition of Healthwise featured a discussion on postpartum depression, in which health experts explored the symptoms and psychological support available for postpartum depression. Dr. Carice Manchester, an obstetrician gynecologist, mentioned some of the risk factors of postpartum.
The biological risk factors are ones that we can't quite change per se, but there are some of those, and obviously a previous history of being depressed, having a depression or a mood disorder can put you at risk of postpartum depression and mood disorders. If you have a family history of mood disorders or mental illness in general. If during your pregnancy you had a depression episode, then postpartum you would be at risk for it as well. In a previous pregnancy, if you've had postpartum depression, then in the next one you're at risk for it as well. Bipolar disorder specifically is a very big risk factor for postpartum mood disorders.
Dr. Manchester also noted other risk factors for some postpartum depression, such as age. Older women older than 40 are at risk, educational level and lack of social support, women who have experienced a recent catastrophic life event, job loss, and cultural expectations.
Difficulty with breastfeeding can also be a factor because, I don't know, but breastfeeding for me, it's one of the hardest things I ever do in my life. I have to say. I know some women make it look easy, but it can be very difficult. And then it adds to the whole, difficulty of child rearing, and needing that support is important.
Also speaking on the panel was clinical psychologist Dr. Sherilyn Ward Crawford. She used the opportunity to highlight some of the symptoms of postpartum depression.
If the person is presenting with sadness, and it's persistent sadness, and when we say persistent sadness, we're talking about sadness that lasts for majority of the day, for majority of the days of the week. That is what we're looking for. And then we are also looking for lack of motivation. And it's the lack of motivation in doing things that they are accustomed to do, and they used to find some sort of pleasure of doing. So they're daily activities, and in this case, caring for the baby, caring for the home, etc. Lack of motivation in those things. If the person presents with either one of those first two symptoms, then we look for some additional symptoms that would help us to determine if the person is suffering with postpartum depression. So we look for some symptoms related to sleep, and it could be extreme. The person might be sleeping too much or not sleeping at all, okay? Or we look for symptoms associated with appetite, and extreme also. The person can be eating too much or not eating at all.
Postpartum psychosis is the severest form of mental illness. In that category, characterized by extreme confusion, loss of touch with reality, paranoia, delusions, disorganized thought process, and hallucinations. Dr. Ward Crawford mentioned some postpartum mood disorders.
We would have persons experiencing what we call fatigue and low in energy and tired all the time. These are symptoms we are looking for. We're looking for symptoms related to hopelessness or helplessness or worthlessness, these types of feelings that they would get. And of course, it can be so severe that the person can present with recurrent thoughts of death, where, what would it be if I died? I wonder if I died, what would happen? How would I feel? Or they would have suicidal ideations, meaning now they are thinking that they want to kill themselves. And they could have it with a plan or without a plan. So these are the symptoms we are looking at. And we will want to know, is it mild, is it moderate, or severe?
Nadia Deming, a postpartum depression survivor, appeared on the program and spoke about her experience.
Overcoming postpartum depression was not something easy for me. I hesitated a lot because I believed that this was my new norm. This is my new life. My life would be sad taking care of this whole other human. And so it was a slow startup in getting over postpartum depression. But I had friends in my corner. Support is vital. I had friends in my corner that encouraged me first to join a small women group where there were different women there who struggled with different aspects of their lives. I think I was the only one there with the postpartum depression, but that was a start. And then I committed myself to a constant counseling with 3 C's. Andrea, I affectionately call her Angie. She is great when it comes to postpartum depression, and that is where I start to overcome or start to show some sort of progress when it comes to postpartum depression, along with the baby getting older, and so things get a little easier and understanding, getting a better feel of motherhood thanks to the counseling, and that is how I overcome postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression survivor Nadia Deming. St. Kitts and Nevis, in the person of Honorable Dr. Joel Clark, Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment and Climate Action, has been elected to serve as a rapporteur on the Bureau of UNEA 7, which will be held in February 2026. This decision materialized from the recently concluded United Nations Environment Assembly's 6th session, which was held in Nairobi, Kenya. Of the meeting, there were 15 resolutions, 2 decisions, and a ministerial declaration aimed at confronting the planet's environmental crises head-on. The Federation was represented by Honorable Dr. Joel Clark, Dr. Marcus Elnata, Global Environment Facility, GEF, political focal point, and Evan Parry, Environmental Officer in the Department of Environment. St. Kitts and Nevis's participation in UNEA 6 demonstrates the nation's approach to multilateral diplomacy and its commitment to sustainability. The outcomes of UNEA 6 serve as a call to action for all nations to address the environmental problems of the planet. St. Kitts and Nevis remains dedicated to this cause, inviting partners and the international community to join in the pursuit of a resilient, sustainable, and prosperous future for all. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources, in collaboration with the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, is inviting all interested persons to register early for a chance to secure their stall at the Agri-Easter Night Market to be held on March 28th. The night market is slated to run from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. and will feature local cuisine and cultural presentations ranging from drum presentations to live musical entertainment, kicking off a sequence of themed events scheduled throughout 2024. This initiative represents the government's continued commitment to fulfill its promise of establishing markets for farmers, fishers, and other food producers. Head of the Media and Communication Department in the Ministry of Agriculture, Shira Flanders, spoke about the importance of supporting local vendors and artisans at events like the night market. She said, and I quote, "By supporting food producers, attendees not only enjoy healthier, tastier options, but also contribute to sustainability and growth of the local agricultural sector. This, in turn, can lead to increased business opportunities and contribute to the overall economic development of the country." End quote. Registration forms are available at the Bastia Public Market, the Department of Agriculture Lagreet, the Department of Marine Resources, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Building Number 16, in Port Zante, St. Kitts. In regional news, Guyana's president has reaffirmed his plea for the United Nations